Well, first of all, to clarify, I made a film which is the only film I made. So I'm terribly embarrassed to be sort of labeled as a filmmaker. But yes, I made a film, and very few people actually get to the point of making a film. So for me, this film, as it is called Apna Asman, is also a bit about my sky and touching my sky and making it happen. For the year that I made the film, we traveled to many festivals, and I kept on seeing films done by others. And there were at least 7 films which were going around in the circuit. I can say that 6 of those films have not been released, but I've managed to release mine, so I think I've managed well. Thank you. How do I move forward? Click any button, or? Well, let's try. Yeah, that's the. So I've called my talk Jugal Bandhi for the simple reason that I believe that, what we are talking about here today, where I was kind of prompted to come in, was about the magic of parenting, which I think is a lovely statement to make, but at the end of it, I think it's a little top down. It's about the parent as I am supposed to be, me and my wife, and what we do for our child. But I think it's more important to realize that it's a normal relationship. It's a relationship between human beings. So therefore, my son, whose name is Orko, and you'll discover shortly, who was detected to be different. And at that point when it happened, we didn't know what it was. And later somebody used the word autism, and then they said it's a Cohen syndrome and whatever. So it really doesn't matter, because at the end of it, we knew that there was something different and that we had to sort of deal with. And more importantly, I think what we realized was we had to deal with him as a human being. And as we know in Jugal Bandi, it's all about building that relationship, building that trust, building a certain kind of respect for each other. I think it's all about that. And I think whatever we've been able to do with Orko has been about doing this Jugal Bandi. And in that, I think like any story, in any thing that we do, it should start with honesty. And this honesty is so difficult to sort of manage, because while we know that you are supposed to be truthful, but there are moments that you wish it wasn't true. So therefore, you don't wish it to be true. So interestingly, we are back to Bangalore. That's where it all happened, because we knew that there was something going wrong, and Orko had this fits of epilepsy, and it was so difficult to manage, and no one seemed to be knowing anything, and the doctors were creating havoc in his life. And if we really go back, somebody said you should have sued the doctors, but really doesn't matter. But the truth is that at some point, Orko was about 18 months old, he hurt himself, he broke his arm. And it was the day of Dasera or something like that, and there were no doctors. So he was in this hospital, and everybody found him to be very cute, because all he did was he kept on singing Chumma Chumma Dede. And that was very cute. But I, as a father, finally acknowledged that there was something wrong. Because if somebody has fractured his or her arm or leg, can't be singing, that person has to cry. And he didn't cry. He was singing. And he only sang one line, which was Chumma Chumma Dede. And that was the moment when I think I broke the news, and I told my wife that, look, let's be honest. All this while that we've been thinking, let's be honest about the fact that there is something wrong. Let's move forward. Let's find ways to sort of treat this. And of course, we moved to Mumbai, and life has moved along, and then there has been many things that has happened to our lives, and I think most of us over here would know what rejection is all about. While you can accept, it's not so easy to go through this whole system where not just your child, but you too are looked at as somebody who's got some problem. And so it comes to a point where people start to avoid you. And they start to avoid you. Why? Because you seem to be having a son or a child who can disrupt anything. And I remember that dinner where at some point Orko went and sat on the table of one of the Chinese restaurants over here near Brigade Road, and he disrupted the whole place to a point when we were thrown out. And though it was a family get-together, somebody's birthday, we realized that we were not wanted over there anymore. So let me play you a clip. What I'll do is I'll kind of switch from what has happened in my film. So this is a clip about... That's my protagonist, that's Buddhi.
Astra.
ये गाना बंद कराना पिंकी का मैथ्स एग्जाम है ना इसलिए दूर थोड़ा सा है कल लौटा दूंगी एस्ट्रा एस्ट्रा एस्ट्रा
Come here. Do namaste.
एस्ट्रा पिंकी सुनो अरे तुम यहाँ क्या कर रही हो पिंकी एस्ट्रा
stay.
पिंकी
नहीं.
बुद्धि मामा बुला रही है बुद्धि प्लीज बुद्धि गुड बाय बनो प्लीज बुद्धि
No, Astra. Astra,
हॉलीडे आफ्टर तब खेलेंगे ठीक है पिंकी ये क्या लगा हुआ है पिंकी बुद्धि मामा बुला रही है बहुत गुस्सा करेंगे बुद्धि पिंकी अब क्या कर रही हो
Thank you.
वेलकम एस्ट्रा बैड डॉग पिंकी जल्दी से घर जाओ कल मैथ्स का एग्जाम है याद है ना चलो जाओ
Bam.
पूरा पैकेज हाँ थैंक यू सो मच वो पिंकी के ऊपर इतना प्रेशर है ना उसका वो मैथ्स टीचर कुछ गोलमाल करके उसने गोयल के बेटे को फर्स्ट कर दिया और पिंकी को सेकंड बताओ भाई नहीं आई क्या
नहीं माँ जी ने निकाल दिया
ओह माँ जी कब आ रही कानपुर से अच्छा चलती हूँ अब अमेरिका जा रही हूँ ना 2 महीनों के लिए न्यूयॉर्क न्यू जर्सी न्यू ऑर्लिन्स सब जगह तो कजिन्स है चलती हूँ परसों होली में आ रही हूँ ना पद्मिनी जरा मिलो जुलो जरूर आना होली में ठीक है और जरा ये प्लीज बुद्धि का गाना उसे किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन में क्यों नहीं भेज देती
क्यों इंस्टीट्यूशन क्यों बुद्धि इज फाइन और हाँ मैं मैथ्स में गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट थी रेडियो ऑन करके पढ़ती थी जिन्हें मैथ्स आता है उन्हें सिंगिंग से प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती
हम होंगे कामयाब Sorry. Chocolate.
तुम कब समझोगे बुद्धि पिंकी जैसे क्यों नहीं बन सकते तुम
पिंकी ऐसे क्यों नहीं बन सकते तुम
पिंकी जैसे क्यों नहीं बन सकते तुम I think that is the biggest problem because Pinky's mother is always reminding Padmini that her son is not quite fit and she's the kind of person who's not even bothered to sort of acknowledge the fact that such conversations about Pinky coming second in class is absolutely not the conversation that she wants to hear because she's just come back from one more rejection from another school and this, I think, is what was going through our lives. It's about the whole problem about seeing the neighbor's child or the friend's son or somebody else, getting it all right. And of course, the consolation was that we had our elder son who was doing very well in class. So therefore, for us, it was always easy to balance, but it doesn't make it so easy that you have to accept everything. But in this story, what happens is that, and that I think is the central point about this film, and I wish I'd called this film Buddhi and not Apna Asman, and a little while ago we were discussing about what to label them as, because I felt Buddhi is such a lovely word, because Buddhi is enlightenment. It's about not being intelligent and smart and being first in class. It's about that my son Orko can perceive and feel and see and do things that I can't do. So that I think is buddhi. And so in this story, buddhi actually undergoes this whole change, and it's a kind of an allegorical story to become somebody, and later it is the same parents, much like what happens to most of us. We discovered that maybe we left something behind. The fact that buddhi could draw, could paint, but he didn't know math, was perhaps something that as parents, they miss something. So this is when the realization happens. We lock up things, we lock up people, we lock up our children.
मैंने उसे कभी एनकरेज नहीं किया। मे बी वो एक अच्छा आर्टिस्ट बन सकता था।
मैंने तो कभी इन्हें ठीक से देखा भी नहीं है। एक दिन ऑफिस में इसका फोन आया, बोला बाबा आई मेड अ मंकी फॉर यू। मैंने उसे इतना कर दिया, मैंने कहा तुमने टेबल याद की नहीं की? तो बेचारा थोड़ा सहम गया। आई थिंक शायद ये वो बाबा
Well, the realization is always very good, no matter when it happens. And in my case, you come across little things, and I suddenly one day read a little piece of paper which was stuck in my elder son's school, which I later used in the film. And I think in like a film where you do need a moment of resolution, and this is, I think, the moment of resolution which happened to us as well.
बुद्धि में कुछ कमी जरूर थी, लेकिन he wasn't disabled. He was differently abled. उसमें कुछ और खूबी थी जो कि शायद तुम में मुझ में नहीं है. हर बच्चा तो डॉक्टर इंजीनियर नहीं बन सकता ना. That's why so many students are committing suicide. Why? Because their parents keep pushing them. पता नहीं पेरेंट्स के कब समझ में आएगा कि उनकी लक्ष्मण रेखा क्या है. Wait. Listen to this. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. You may house their bodies but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. इस किताब ने मुझे बहुत सवालों के जवाब दिए. Read this, it might help you.
It also answered a lot of questions for me. And that answer was all about the fact that I cannot decide what is going to be right for my son. And in a way, the film Apna Asman was not really about the disabled children, but it was also about any normal child, because what I saw around me was the fact that every parent was kind of saying that my son has to be brilliant, a genius, has to join engineering and do all that. Whereas, like many kids, because in advertising where I've worked, I have so many creative directors who are electrical engineers and so on and so forth, which is just to prove that there are people who've done all that to realize that they've pursued the wrong thing because their parents told them to do so. Moving forward, let's talk about the protagonist in my life, which is Orko. What is interesting about my story is that I had this dream. And this dream was one where I saw Orko. At that point in time, Orko was 10 years old, and I saw him about 18 or 20 years old. And I saw in my dream that Orko was very famous. There were cameras clicking and all that was happening. And somehow I got the feeling that Orko had become very, very famous and an accomplished person as we would like him to be. But when I turned around and I looked and I saw my wife was crying, and then I felt and I realized that Orko had grown up to be an obnoxious young man. He was behaving very badly, and there was something about him that told me that he was not quite somebody I wanted. When I woke up, I wrote the film Buddhi, I wrote this film called Apna Asman, because it helped me to clear my mind completely, to tell me that Orko was never meant to be that person who's famous and who's a genius and all that. Orko is meant to be Orko. He's meant to be challenged for whatever he's got as problems, but he has other strengths. And so, one of the things that I did quite unconsciously was I went back to art. And as I started painting, Orko picked up the brush and he discovered that if you mix blue and yellow, you get green, and there's a third color, and the fourth color, and the fifth color. And suddenly, a kid who actually had been rejected by all schools because he couldn't hold the pencil, he couldn't write, and he was almost 11 years old, he couldn't write ABC, but he just started doing this amazing drawings of animals. Because one of the things that we have to acknowledge is these people are so genuine people, because they are exactly like those people 35,000 whatever years back in those caves. I think they were the true human beings who had their limbic brain in place, and they were the ones who were drawing these amazing things on caves and walls. And why were they doing it? Because I think we are all meant to be artists. First thing that we do is we doodle, and the first thing that parents do is that don't do it, don't dirty the wall, don't do that. And if you look at this drawing, and then if you look at the next drawing, that is Orko's zebra, I suddenly discovered that Orko is one of them, and he's so pure and is absolutely like there is nothing that he can manage like telling a lie, because if he tells a lie, we will know immediately, because he will make it known that he's been dishonest. Now, why should I make him a genius? Why can't he be him? And I think our story moved on, and this piece is the one that I'm sharing with you because it's a special one. We've had 2 exhibitions, and yes, we call those exhibitions Jugalbandi, where the father and the son, we both paint and we put up these exhibitions. This one is from the last exhibition. What I like about is the fact that it's his way of doing the zebra. It's not perfect, it's never meant to be perfect, but it's his way of saying this is what the zebra is meant to be. And what I like about is the fact that this was the piece that drew huge number of people from art colleges and teachers who came and studied it and looked at it, and God knows what they discussed. But they spent hours coming back for the second time. And finally, of course, Orko has always been the more successful painter because his paintings get sold, even if my paintings get sold, but that's absolutely fine, that's the idea. But this painting was bought by a collector who had nothing to do with us, who didn't know Orko, who didn't know who I was. He just picked it up because he said that I want to add it to my collection. To me, that was the big moment, and I think we had traveled somewhere, and in this journey, I think what we had embraced was pragmatism. And pragmatism is what is written over here. It's about the fact that don't expect that, for instance, I've just come back from China and I realize that I'm completely challenged because I can't manage a chopstick. So that's it. I mean, I'm completely disabled in the dining table because I cannot handle a chopstick. So therefore, these are realities of life that if today I decide that I'm going to be Sachin Tendulkar, no, I will not be. I can't even be Harsha. So therefore, that's a compliment, huh? Don't take it like you're not like Sachin. No, I can do this because we know each other very well. So, and I have to say that he's been the one who's always responded to everything that we've done, and he's always there to support. Great guy. Thanks, Harsha. Pragmatism is about the fact that Orko's work has not been, collected in the Sotheby's or whatever, but it has made it to this book called Drawing Autism, which is a collection of paintings done by autistic people from across the world. And you could say, oh, they're only autistic, but when you see the book, you realize that the work is amazing. There's some very accomplished painters who are actually professional painters who are autistic. And Orko's work has featured in that. So I better be happy about that and not say, oh, why is it not at Sotheby's? I think acceptance has been the key thing, and Firoz asked me to talk to you about my film, but I think my film has done a little thing because it was not a commercial success. I didn't have big stars as you saw them, but I think being able to talk every time I'm asked to speak or in an interview, we keep doing this, and we've never hid away from the world or locked up Orko, or for that matter, today he's going to cafe coffee day kind of event in the evening with my wife, and he's supposed to be speaking over there to talk about, I don't know what he's going to speak, because what he's going to speak, I can tell you, is that he wants a sumo and he wants an omni. Few years back, it was the 4 buffaloes that he wanted, which we haven't been able to give him. But right now, it's the Sumo and the Omni, and I think they're both very good cars. But most people have told me that I shouldn't buy it, including some people who I will not mention from Tatas, who've told me don't buy the Sumo. So I'm in a bit of a fix. But that's the kind of thing that I think Orko loves to talk about. Before I end, I just want to end by telling you about this, that red dot is where we are with Orko. That's where it all starts. And you have to acknowledge the fact that that's the central focus. That's where you have to concentrate. And around that is your family, the extended family, all the relatives who are there. Don't expect that they're the ones who are going to be coming and doing everything for you, because the initial phase, you have to educate them. And they're not educated enough to sort of embrace the situation. And then you have your friends. That's the other circle. And that circle, in most times, I have found from my experience, they're the ones who embrace faster, because they're the ones who are true, in the sense that, I wasn't born to be a cousin, but I have made a friend like, let's say, Abhijit. So therefore, Abhijit is my friend. So he's chosen to be my friend. So when I have a problem like Orko or any other, he has to accept it because he's my friend. Whereas my cousin, it's not like that. So he has the option of choosing another cousin like that. And of course, there is the wider world. You have to acknowledge all that. In these, you have to build your own circles. And finally, you have to find a small circle, perhaps, a very tiny one, which is culled out of your extended family. You have to find maybe a slightly bigger one out of your friend circle. And finally, you create what I would call the main circle, which supports Orko, which supports everybody else. Do not expect, I think, in my opinion, the whole world is going to come out and help you. But in this diagram, I think what is very important is Orko has been exposed. He hasn't been locked away. He hasn't been kept away. The whole thing that we've done is, if you invite me, I'm going to bring my son. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Today, thank you. Today, I can say that, the same people who had stopped inviting us, and I'm sorry to say that some of these are my very close relatives. Today, they are the ones who will invite Orko first, because they've realized that there's nothing wrong with him. So, they can, I think what we've been able to do, and I think this exposure is all about letting people know that we all have our skies which we have to touch, and mine is different, yours is different, but in all that we have to sort of coexist, and that's life, and that's what's all about. And somewhere life imitates real life, and real life is. So that's the end of my film, which actually came true because this is the exhibition that happened for Buddhi.
बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है।
ये आर्ट एग्जीबिशन हमारी तरफ से बुद्धि के लिए कहा जाए तो एक्चुअली पहला मीनिंगफुल तोहफा है।
पेंटिंग्स बिके ना बिके डजंट मैटर।
वेटर, क्या लेंगे आप?
ब्लैक कॉफी,
ब्लैक, व्हाइट एंड ग्रे।
अर्ल ग्रे, दार्जिलिंग।
जिंदगी सिर्फ ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट नहीं होती है, उसमें थोड़ा सा हिस्सा ग्रे का भी होता है।
माँ, सब कहते हैं मैं बहुत अच्छा पेंटिंग करता हूँ।
तो आप ही हैं वो?
हाँ।
You paint fabulously. Lovely
Thank
work.
you. My name is बुद्धि, बुद्धि राज। I paint. आप क्या करते हो?
मैं? अरे
पेड़ बन जाए, छाँव भी दे फल भी दे, कैसा तन जाए हो, छाँव भी दे फल भी दे, कैसा तन जाए, कर
So that's the story of Buddhi. And as I started off by saying, Jugalbandi has happened twice, and I hope it will continue to happen. And all the little bits of painting that you've seen are those of Orcos, and those are about 8 years old. He's evolved. There are moments when he doesn't paint at all. We have to remind him. So he now he's painting a lot, lots of omnis, lots of sumos. He's doing that. And he's writing stories in his paintings, and he's doing some amazing stuff. And I think at the end of it, he I think is planning to sell those paintings and buy a sumo. So thank you very much. And if it's Jugalbandi, I think it's at the end of it, our children and us, we have to make this music together. Thank you.